Have you ever held on to something long after it was meant to end? A relationship, a dream, a version of yourself that no longer fits, yet you cling to it, afraid of what letting go might mean. But the truth is, holding on does not keep you safe. It keeps you stuck. Most people resist endings because they fear the pain that follows. They think, if I ignore it, maybe it won't hurt. Or, if I pretend it's not over, maybe I won't have to grieve. But healing does not come from avoidance. To move forward, you must let it end. You must let it hurt. You must let yourself feel what you have been running from. Only then can you let it heal. Only then can you let it go. I will show you how to stop resisting the pain, how to surrender to the process, and how to release what no longer serves you, without fear, without regret. Because the moment you stop clinging to the past, you free yourself to step into something new. Are you ready to let go? Let's begin. There comes a moment in every life when the old must die, not as a punishment, but as a necessity. To hold on to what has already served its purpose is to deny yourself the life that awaits you. And yet, the human mind resists. It clings to the familiar, not because it is good, but because it is known. You may believe that what you fear is loss, but in truth, it is the unknown that unsettles you. The mind, conditioned by years of experience, has learned to equate change with uncertainty, and uncertainty with danger. But what if the very thing you dread, the dissolution of what was, is the key to the fulfillment of your deepest desires? What if the end you resist is, in fact, the door to your greatest becoming? Neville Goddard taught that every aspect of your life is the reflection of an internal state of consciousness. To change your world, you must first change yourself. But to assume a new state, you must release the old. You cannot live in two states at once. The moment you truly let go, when you surrender the assumptions and beliefs that no longer serve you, you create space for the new to emerge. Everything in life moves through cycles. The tides rise and fall. The seasons turn. The seed must break for the tree to grow. This is the law of life. And yet, when it comes to ourselves, we resist this law. We attempt to keep what is already unraveling, believing that if we hold on long enough, if we patch the cracks, we can preserve what was. But this is not life. This is stagnation. You may have already felt it, the heaviness of an identity that no longer fits, the weight of thoughts and emotions that once shaped your world but now only confine you. This is the sign that a state has run its course, but instead of accepting its departure, you fight against it. You negotiate with yourself. You replay memories, searching for a way to keep what is slipping away. But deep down, you already know. The state you are trying to hold on to is no longer holding on to you. The law of assumption is not merely about creating a new reality. It is about ceasing to identify with an old one. You cannot bring a new version of yourself into being while still holding the consciousness of the past. If you were once burdened by lack, by struggle, by self-doubt, but now wish to embody abundance, ease, and confidence, you must let the former identity die. You must assume the new, fully, completely, without hesitation. To do this, you must recognize when an old state has fulfilled its purpose. Consider this: a dream once burned within you, a desire that shaped your thoughts and actions. Perhaps it was love, a career, a goal that once defined you. But now, something in you has shifted. The passion is gone. The alignment has broken. and yet you hesitate. You remain attached to what was, fearing that if you let it go, you will be left with nothing. But the truth is, nothing is ever lost. A new desire is already forming, even if you cannot yet see it. And for it to take root, the old must end. There's a moment when you stand at the threshold, caught between who you were and who you are becoming. This is where most people falter. They linger in the in-between, afraid to move forward, yet unable to return. To let it end is to surrender. And surrender is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the recognition that fighting against the inevitable only prolongs suffering. It is understanding that no door will open until the one behind you is closed. The mind, however, craves certainty. It wants proof before it lets go. It demands to see the new reality before it releases the old. But life does not work this way. The next chapter cannot reveal itself while you are still clinging to the last. The next version of yourself cannot emerge while you remain identified with who you once were. This is the great paradox. You must step into the unknown before the unknown becomes known. Close your eyes. Imagine the version of yourself you wish to be. See it, feel it, assume it. But now ask yourself, what within you must die for this version to live? Is it the belief that you are unworthy? The assumption that success must be a struggle? The fear that love will always leave you? Whatever it is, let it end. Do not mourn it, for it is not you. It was only a state, a garment you once wore. And just as easily as you put it on, you can take it off. You are not bound to any state. You are the operant power, the creator of your experience. If you would assume the new, you must surrender the old. And in that surrender, you will find that what you feared was never loss, but transformation. There is no resurrection without crucifixion, no rebirth without death, no transformation without the searing discomfort of being stripped of what no longer belongs to you. Yet, when pain arrives, the first instinct is to run, to numb it, to silence it, to bury it beneath distractions. But what if pain is not your enemy? What if pain is the chisel in the sculptor's hands, shaping you into something greater? Neville Goddard taught that the external world is but a reflection of internal states of consciousness. When you shift within, the outer world rearranges to match. But between the old and the new, there is a space of becoming, a place where what was dissolves and what will be has not yet fully formed. This space is where pain lives, not as punishment, but as the necessary breaking down of the false self, so the true self may rise. Every moment of growth requires a shedding, a letting go of a lesser version of yourself. This is the crucifixion, not of the body, but of the identity. The version of you that lived in fear, in lack, in limitation, must be put to rest. This is why it hurts. Not because you are losing something real, but because you are losing what you believed to be real. The suffering is in the mind, in the clinging to a past that has already dissolved. The self-concept you once held, the person you assumed yourself to be, must die for the new assumption to take its place. And yet, many resist this process. They fight to hold on to what is already unraveling. They fear the void that follows an ending, mistaking emptiness for loss rather than possibility. But just as a seed must be buried in darkness before it can break open and reach toward the light, so too must you allow yourself to be undone before you can be remade. There will come a moment when the old world collapses and nothing feels certain. The dreams that once inspired you lose their spark. The relationships you built no longer fit. The identity you spent years constructing no longer holds meaning. This is the dark night of the soul, the passage through the wilderness of the unknown. Most people mistake this darkness for failure, believing that if they feel lost, they must have taken a wrong turn. But this, too, is part of the process. Just as the moon disappears from the night sky before it begins to wax again, your transformation requires a phase of emptiness, a period where the new has not yet taken shape. It is in this space that grief arises, the grief of leaving behind what was once familiar, the grief of saying goodbye to who you used to be. And it is here, in this silence, that you must make a choice, to numb the pain, to retreat into old patterns, or to surrender to the pruning process, trusting that what is being removed is making way for something greater. Pain is not proof that you are broken. It is proof that you are alive, that you allowed yourself to care, to dream, to attach meaning to something. It is proof that you have stepped beyond the comfortable, beyond the known. But the suffering does not come from the pain itself. It comes from the mind's refusal to let it move through you. Pain is meant to be felt, understood, released. But when you resist it, when you bury it, it does not dissolve. It lingers beneath the surface, shaping your beliefs, dictating your actions, keeping you trapped in the very state you are trying to leave behind. To heal, you must allow yourself to feel, to truly feel, not as a means of suffering, but as a path to understanding. Pain, when embraced, is a teacher. It reveals to you what mattered, what shaped you, what still holds power over you. It is only by walking through it, fully, consciously, without resistance, that you free yourself from its grip. Neville Goddard did not teach escapism. He did not teach the denial of present reality. Instead, he taught the power of imagination, not as a means to avoid suffering, but as a way to transform it. Imagination is not a tool for distraction. It is the bridge between where you are and where you are going. When pain arises, do not suppress it. Instead, use your imagination to give it meaning, to move beyond it, to step into the self that no longer carries it. Ask yourself, who would I be without this pain? How would I think, feel, and act if I had already moved beyond it? And then assume that state. Step into it, even as the pain lingers. Not by pretending it is not there, but by knowing that it is temporary, that it is only the shadow of an identity in the process of dissolving. There is a moment in every transformation where the work is done, yet the change is not yet visible. The seed has been planted, but the harvest has not come. The prayer has been answered, but the world has not yet rearranged itself to show it. This is the Sabbath, the sacred rest after spiritual labor, the stillness in which the subconscious mind takes what has been impressed upon it and brings it to life. Most do not know how to rest. They do not trust the process. They plant a seed and dig it up the next day to see if it has begun to grow. They set an intention and then spend their time searching for evidence, doubting its fulfillment, undoing with their fear what they have created in faith. But the law of consciousness does not work through struggle. It works through assumption, through knowing, through the quiet certainty that what is planted must bear fruit. To let it heal is to let it be. Neville Goddard taught that every state of consciousness carries within it its own fulfillment. If you have assumed the feeling of the wish fulfilled, If you have surrendered the old self and stepped into the new, then the work is complete. The outer world will conform to the inner shift, but only if you allow it. This is where most people falter. They believe they must continue striving, continue affirming, continue efforting their way into healing. But creation is finished. The moment you accept a new state of being, the moment you fully embody the version of yourself that is already healed, already whole, already living the life you have imagined, that is the moment the work is done. What follows is not more struggle, but trust. Rest does not mean inaction. It means non-resistance. It means allowing the subconscious mind to carry out what has been impressed upon it without interference, without doubt, without the constant need for reassurance. It is the quiet confidence of one who knows that the sun will rise even if they do not watch the horizon. The subconscious mind is impersonal. It does not argue. It does not question. It simply receives impressions and brings them into form. If you have assumed yourself to be healed, then healing must take place. If you have assumed yourself to be abundant, then abundance must manifest. But the process is not always immediate. There's a reordering that must occur, a dissolving of the old to make way for the new. During this time, you may feel as if nothing is happening. You may look at the world and see no evidence of change. You may even experience moments where the old state seems to return, where fear whispers that nothing has shifted, that you are still the person you were trying to leave behind. But this is only the subconscious reorganizing. It is the final echo of a reality that is fading, a test of your faith in what you cannot yet see. Do not be deceived by appearances. The outer world is always a delayed reflection of the inner state. If you persist in the assumption of your new self, reality will catch up. It must. Healing is not only a release of the old, but a guarding of the new. Once you have entered a new state, once you have stepped into the assumption of the fulfilled desire, you must protect it. This is why mental diet is crucial. Neville spoke of the mind as a garden. What you plant, you will harvest. The thoughts you entertain, the conversations you engage in, the content you consume, all of these are seeds that shape your reality. If you have assumed health but continue to dwell on illness, you weaken the new state. If you have assumed abundance but continue to speak of lack, you delay the manifestation. The subconscious does not discriminate between what is wanted and what is feared. It simply brings forth whatever is impressed upon it. To heal, you must nourish the new self. Speak only as the person you have become. Think only from the state of the wish fulfilled. Do not return to the tomb to check if the body has risen. It has. Walk forward as if it were already done. Healing is not something that happens to you. It is something that happens through you, as you. It is not an external event, but an internal shift. Most wait for proof before they believe. They wait for the body to feel whole before they assume health. They wait for money to arrive before they assume abundance. They wait for love to appear before they assume they are loved. But this is not the way of creation. The outer world is only a reflection. It cannot change until the inner assumption has stabilized. To heal, you must walk as if it were already done. You must think, speak, and act from the reality you have chosen, not the one you are leaving behind. This is not pretense. This is faith. You do not need to force healing. You need only to stop contradicting it. The moment you assume it fully, It must come. But you cannot waver. You cannot move between belief and doubt, between certainty and fear. You must remain in the state of fulfillment, knowing that all things are working together to bring the unseen into the seen. In the end, healing is not about fixing something broken. It is about returning to what has always been whole. The pain, the struggle, the resistance, these were never real in themselves. They were only reflections of a state of consciousness, a temporary condition of the mind. When you cease to resist, when you release the fight, divine order is restored. The subconscious moves effortlessly to bring forth the fulfillment of what has been impressed upon it. The body heals, the heart mends, the outer world shifts to match the inner assumption, but only when you allow it. The Sabbath is trust. It is the quiet knowing that what has been claimed in consciousness will appear in form. It is the deep exhale after the labor, the stillness after the storm, the peace that comes when you realize you do not need to struggle to receive what is already yours. There is a moment in the journey of transformation when nothing more can be done. The seed has been planted, the work has been completed, and yet the harvest is not yet visible. It is here that the final and most profound act is required. Not effort, not seeking, but surrender. To let go is not to abandon your desire. It is to release the need to control its unfolding. It is to understand that manifestation is not about forcing reality into shape, but about allowing what is already yours to take form in its own perfect time and way. This is the great paradox. What you cling to, you delay. What you release, you receive. Neville Goddard spoke often of the necessity of detachment, not as a rejection of desire, but as the final proof of faith. The one who truly believes does not grasp, does not beg, does not anxiously look for signs. They rest in the certainty that what has been assumed in consciousness must externalize. The mind, however, rebels at this. It wants to control, to measure, to dictate the terms of fulfillment. But manifestation is not the work of the conscious mind. It is the work of the subconscious, the divine mechanism that brings all things to pass. When you have impressed your desire upon the subconscious, your role is no longer to labor, but to trust. To let go is to know that your wish is already fulfilled. It is to move through life not seeking proof, but embodying the proof within yourself. You do not need to ask, when will it come? Because you know it must come. You do not need to force conditions into place, because you trust the divine order that is already at work. Indifference is often mistaken for apathy, but in the spiritual sense, it is the highest form of trust. It is the state of one who has fully accepted their new reality and no longer feels the need to question it. This is what Neville meant when he spoke of living in the end. If you have already received something, you no longer chase it. You no longer need signs to reassure you. You simply live from the certainty that it is done. The one who is healed does not check their body every day to see if the healing has occurred. The one who is abundant does not obsess over their bank balance. The one who is loved does not seek constant validation. To be divinely indifferent is to be at peace. It is to know that what is yours cannot be lost, and what is not yours cannot be forced. It is to move through life with the quiet confidence that all things are unfolding in perfect alignment. Most struggle not with believing in their desires, but with waiting for them. They demand immediate results, as if time were an obstacle rather than a servant of the unseen. But time is never the enemy. It is merely the space in which the invisible takes form. To fight against it is to fight against the very process of creation. The moment you release attachment to when and how your desire will manifest, you create the space for it to arrive. You cease interfering. You stop the cycle of doubt and reaffirmation, which only tells the subconscious that you do not truly believe. This is why so many remain trapped in longing, because their very longing keeps them separate from the thing they seek. They place their desire in the future, always just out of reach, rather than claiming it in the present. But the one who understands the law does not wait. They assume, they embody, they live from the end, knowing that reality will rearrange itself accordingly. When you no longer need the world to confirm your new state, the world rushes to reflect it. Nature abhors a vacuum. The moment you truly let go, you create space for the new to enter. But most do not truly release. They only pretend to. They speak of letting go while secretly checking, waiting, searching. They claim detachment while their heart still clings. And so, the vacuum is never formed. Genuine surrender is not pretending you do not care. It is the deep inner knowing that you no longer need to. It is resting in the awareness that all is unfolding perfectly, without your interference. This is why so many manifestations occur the moment a person stops trying, when they forget to obsess over their desire, when they become absorbed in life itself, when they lose themselves in joy rather than need. Suddenly, what they sought appears effortlessly, because it was never about chasing, it was about aligning. Letting go is not giving up. It is stepping into certainty so fully that there is nothing left to hold on to. In the end, all desires are merely reflections of your state of being. You do not truly seek wealth, health, or love. You seek the state of fulfillment they represent. But the great truth is this: you are already that which you seek. You are not defined by your circumstances. You are not limited by what has been. You are not bound by appearances, by conditions, by anything outside of you. You are I am, and I am is limitless. The moment you release the need for validation, the moment you stop looking to the world to prove your worth, you realize that you were whole all along. The manifestation becomes secondary, because you no longer need it to feel complete. And it is in that very moment, when you no longer seek, when you no longer need, that what you once longed for arrives effortlessly, because you are no longer chasing the reflection. You have become the source. There is no past. There is only the memory of a state once assumed, a garment once worn. And, like all garments, it can be cast aside. To revise is to release the past from its grip on the present, not by denial nor by force, but by the quiet mastery of imagination. For all that you remember, you still carry. All that you carry, you still project. And what you project, you shall meet again. The world does not bring you pain. It only reveals the pain already assumed within. Likewise, the world does not heal you. It only mirrors the healing that you have accepted as true. At night, before sleep claims you, enter the sacred silence of imagination and recall the day just lived. If there was a moment that did not align with the highest version of yourself, the one who already walks in the fulfillment of your desire, then change it. See it not as it was, but as it ought to have been. If someone wronged you, see them instead as kind. If failure met you, replace it with success. If sorrow visited, conjure joy in its place. Do not merely think it, feel it, until it is real to you, until it takes root in the subconscious mind. For the subconscious mind does not know time. It does not argue with facts. It accepts only what it is impressed with. And if you impress it with a new memory, the old will pass away. This is not fantasy. This is the sacred art of renewal. The world, though it appears external to you, is but a shadow cast by your assumptions. And if the assumption is changed, the shadow must shift. When you revise the past, you set in motion a bridge of incidents, a series of events that will appear as if by coincidence, but are, in truth, the unfolding of your new state. Perhaps an old grievance is suddenly made right, though no outward effort was made. A person once cold toward you is now inexplicably kind. An opportunity that seemed lost is restored. This is the work of imagination reshaping reality. But the mind, conditioned to believe in causality, will doubt. It will search for logic where none is needed. It will resist the idea that something so simple as feeling could alter the course of life itself. And yet, the one who has practiced revision knows otherwise. They have seen the past bend to their will, not because they fought against it, but because they ceased to believe in it as fixed. In Neville's teachings, death is not the end of life, but the end of a state. To revise is to die to one state and rise in another. This is the mystery of the cross and the resurrection, not an event bound to history, but an eternal process within man. Each time you release the old self, the self shaped by past wounds, past failures, past limitations, you step into a new incarnation. The world shifts accordingly, not by force, but by law. This is why nothing need be fought against. The past need not be avenged, nor the present resisted. It is only to be reimagined. And in the reimagining, it is reborn. The world is but a reflection of the self, and the self is ever changing, ever renewing, ever assuming, and reaping what it has sown. To revise is not simply to alter a memory, it is to alter the state from which life is lived. The one who assumes themselves to be rejected will find rejection at every turn. The one who assumes abundance will find doors opening where none seem to exist. Thus, revision is not a correction of the past. It is the transformation of the present. It is the conscious participation in the divine cycle of creation. And so, the question is not whether you can change the past, but whether you are willing to release it. For what you do not revise, you relive. What you do not transform, you remain bound to. But to the one who dares to imagine, who dares to revise, who dares to step beyond the weight of old assumptions, there is no past, only the eternal now, ever unfolding according to their will. You are not bound. You are not fixed. You are not the product of what has been. You are the creator of what shall be. If this message resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're ready for more insights on healing, manifestation, and transformation, subscribe and join this journey with us. Your next breakthrough starts here.